That's right. It's another edition of NSIC Weekly. I'm Tom Frederick, play-by-play voice of the University of Sioux Falls, along with Matt Witwicky of D2Football.com. Just think of me as Hank Kingsley to his Larry Sanders. Hey now.
That was good for you. I'm not used to that kind of humor. Way to start off the show.
It's a little more current than what you're used to out of me, but
much more current. I like it.
We're here to talk Northern Sun Conference football, but first we're going to lead off with something that's only tangentially related to football. The death of a man I consider to be Mr. USF. Ken Cordem, better known to, near and wide as Sid, because of his days as sports information director at USF. He passed away October 14th at the age of 73. Sid had been sick since spring. He had health problems nearly his entire life. I mean, from polio as a child to vision issues to heart valve replacement, pacemaker implantation, and then pneumonia most recently. But never once did you ever hear Sid complain. He was a man of faith, integrity, humor, intelligence. He's the fellow who hired me in 1998. I said he had intelligence. He fondly called my partner, Tim Hyatt, and me the temperamental on-air radio talent. And he was known for saying many a time, from your lips to God's ears. I can hear him say it now. Sid Cordem gave 55 years of his life to the university, and everyone who crossed paths with him, friend, coworker, officials, media member, or foe, they're all better for having known Sid Cordem.
Yeah, and you know what, Tom? Great tribute to Sid. A lot of people have kind of flooded online, whether it's, Matt Zimmer, who is the longtime beat writer for Sioux Falls during a lot of Sid's term, and Augustana head coach Jerry Olszewski with some nice words. Jed Stugart, former USF coach. Sid was very well loved in this community, and it's really interesting to see how our local news is covering this and everything else like that, which speaks to the magnitude of the impact that he had. And, it's one of those things where, you had told me a week ago or so that, Sid wasn't doing well. And, and I had a chance to kind of reflect about how all the time that he had put in there. And, I joke around, Tom, that you are Mr. USF and our fans think that you're Mr. USF because of this show. Sid Cordem was Mr. USF. Well, as we go ahead and kind of move on to some of the action of last weekend, I go ahead and I take a look at this photo. Sid would have fit in real good, Tom, with you and your group right here. New athletic director, and he's only been on the job like a year, so to me he's still new. That's John Hart. Obviously, yourself looking terribly serious in the background there. Tim Hyatt, who helps you out on the broadcast, doing the color. And then we've got the guy who definitely needs to trim his beard, the guy who takes more pictures than I do, Chad Berger, your sideline buddy there with you. Then if we go ahead and take a look at your game day experience as we kind of move our way into the show, there you are with Coach Glow after a win, always much more pleasant there. And I say that jokingly with our guy Glow. But, this was one of those games, Tom, where Glow comes up and he's pretty happy in the booth at that point, isn't he?
Right. He was tickled pink to get that win after, it could have been a letdown game after the big victory the week before at Mankato. They started slow, picked it up in the second half and won handily. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Witt, it was a picture-perfect day in the upper Midwest. At Bob Young Field, there was no wind. It was near 70 degrees. Sun was shining. Gorgeous. But you didn't make it outdoors. No. You were like a mushroom. You were stuck down in the dungeon at the Witt residence just south of me here in southeastern Sioux Falls. You were working multiple screens, your keyboard. You were on the phone with with
I know.
the help.
It was NSIC weekly headquarters here where we were trying to update scores on the web page, and I had 3 games going on here at once, as you can see in the setup. And this is how it always is at my place. So for those who want to give me a hard time about that, that's just kind of how a single dad lives. He doesn't care. And top left corners where UMD and NSU were finishing up. USF game was at half. Augustana, you can see they're running for yards there at Minot. And then down at the bottom, a tight one that we had with Mankato and Moorhead. So I stayed pretty busy. This wasn't my week to go to a game. I just, my time was needed here. I'll be back on out going ahead and seeing UMD visiting Sioux Falls this weekend in one of the top games. But, that's kind of where I was at, But I can do this about once a month.
Yeah, you'd much rather be there in person than watching it on multiple screens.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Technically, what gets us rolling each week, it's the players of the week. Nick Cornder in the NSIC's home office in beautiful downtown Burnsville is the point man for this. And this week, it's Wayne State quarterback Nick Bowen on offense, senior out of Bennington, Nebraska. He accounted for 5 touchdowns, 4 passing, 1 rushing in the Wildcats' 41-7 romp at SMSU. Bowen surpassed 9,000 yards of total offense in that game with his performance. Augustana safety Peyton Buckley. He's been around so long, he transferred from St. Cloud State to Augustana.
Exactly.
And St. Cloud hasn't been playing football since 2018. He's the defensive player. He's a senior out of Rice Lake, Wisconsin. Buckley had 10 tackles as the Vikings slowed the NSIC's top rushing team in beating Minot 20-7. And Northern State kicker Jeremy Caruso, a senior from Wesley Chapel, Florida, a transfer from Minot State to Northern. He kicked a 38-yard game-winning field goal to give the Wolves a 24-21 decision at Minnesota Duluth. He was also perfect on his 3 extra point tries in that victory. There's Jeremy Caruso in action right there.
Yeah, that's a heck of a photo grab there. And you can see the Duluth guys are giving it everything they got, but, Northern wins the day and scratches another win just like that, which kind of moves us a little bit, Tom, into our next spot here. And this was something, Tom, you and I had both taken Duluth here. And this game, all of a sudden, I kind of joined it a little bit late. Once again, I was busy playing IT department. And by the time I joined it, Northern was already kind of rolling. And I was like, what's going on here? And because Duluth at home, they generally take care of business, Tom. So we're going to go ahead and watch a little bit of this video that we have. And as I was mentioning here, Northern goes ahead, Wiley with the touchdown here in the corner, and they're off to a good start, and their defense was playing outstanding. And just like a week ago when they beat Bemidji, their defense was playing really good then too. And, it gets to this, comes all the way down to it. Here's the kick on video, and this thing's already, gone more than viral. And just a huge win for Coach Schmidt and his crew. After starting 0-4, Tom, all of a sudden they find themselves in this spot. And their 2 backs, Block and Kraft, combined for over 120 yards almost, 2 scores. Just really impressive outing.
Coach Schmidt's got to be scratching his head wondering what's he got to do to get on the NSIC weekly podcast. He's not our guest this week, despite winning 3 in a row.
You know what? Heck of a fun guy. You know what? If it maybe we'll reach out to him if they can stay hot here, bring it back to even. I think that's fair, isn't it?
Okay. It was homecoming in Winona, and the Warriors entertained the 3,000 plus fans there, royally beating up on Mary convincingly. I mean, convincingly.
We a week ago, Tom, we talked about Jackson Flotmeyer, their new quarterback, freshman, 6'5", can run with it, can throw it, and it's like, okay, it seems like they were turning a page here. Well, then they go ahead and they got the Mary game. Let's go ahead and, roll the video here. There's Flatmeyer, going ahead, and he reminds us a little bit of a guy named Luke Papillion as a tall freshman, kind of a lanky guy who's really athletic for USF back, probably about 10 years ago. And, you're going to see him here again as they are just running away, Tom, early with this game. Now, as the game kind of moved along a little bit, Sawyer Campbell, we've talked about him for weeks, that he is maybe as good as any receiver in this league. Yeah, all he did was add 2 more scores in this one. And they've kind of got a connection going, the two of them. And this Winona team now, it's kind of like it's, too bad they dug a little bit of a hole. And, Tom Sawyer, longtime coach, gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. There he is with his wife, Connie. And back to the action after the Hall of Fame stuff. And Winona just keeps putting their foot down on the pedal here. And this game was 48-7, Tom. One-sided victory like this. You saw Mary back in week 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And they didn't roll over against Sioux Falls. They played the Cougars really tough. Winona State just takes them, from the beginning to the end here. I didn't see this coming. Did you?
I saw Winona winning, but not by that margin. No, Mary has lost 6 in a row after that non-conference opening season victory. And now it's time for our guest, Witt. He was one of the 6 inductees into the Winona State Hall of Fame on the weekend. In a 25-year career that ended in 2021, Tom Sawyer won nearly 200 games as football coach, the most ever for the Warriors. Coach Sawyer, he's our guest. And bring him up. There he is. Hey, congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame. And thank you very much for joining us here on the NSIC Weekly Podcast, Coach.
Well, thanks for both of those things. It's appreciative to be able to think about, you guys might want me on the show, but to be able to enjoy, the end of the career with our people right here in Winona was also really fun. So thank you for both of those.
Your former team, Winona State's Warriors, got back to 500 on the weekend. They're 3-3 overall, 3-2 in the league, with that big win over Mary. You were there. Your observations on how the Warriors are playing at this stage of the year?
Well, I think if you go back to the Northern game when they, struggled up there to do anything really positive, to be able to last 2 weeks now, and I think a lot of it has to do with Flatmeyer. I mean, this kid brought a spark to that offense that was kind of struggling. At least it seemed like they were kind of standing around, kind of waiting to see what was going to happen each week. And he just took it by the reins and said, let's go to work and have some fun. And I really think that was a spark that they needed. And now 2 games, they're not the top teams in the league, but they're still the NSIC teams, and you got to win every week. And so I think now we'll find out as we go in the next 3 ball games what we're really made of. But it's really a positive weekend and last 2 weeks for the Warriors.
Coach, let me ask you, we've I know that while you have retired, you are still very much involved with Warrior athletics in general, not just the football program. Tell us a little bit about, if you would, about how you've gotten to know, of course, Coach Bergstrom as this transition has occurred, but also a little bit more about the Winona State Football Players Association and how that's been a real positive impact for the program.
Yeah, well, first of all, Coach Bergstrom, I think it was a great hire. Obviously, when he came in from South Dakota State, and they just come off national championship, and we have friends on both sides of the football from South Dakota State that really recommended him highly, and we were excited to get him into Winona, and our relationship has been very good. Trying to just help him, around the community and get to know the people here in Winona and our alumni, and that brings up the Football Players Association, or the FPA. I mean, Scott Opfer was a teammate of mine back in the 80s, and Colin Charlson, who was with us in the mid 2000s. We got together and we said, we got to do something as an alumni group to really help our program. Everybody needs money. Everybody needs scholarship dollars. And we put this program together that's been fantastic. In fact, over the last 7 years now, we've raised over $1 million for scholarship and for, just contributing back to the program. So it's a nonprofit organization outside of the campus, and we just donate money back as the program needs it. It's been fantastic.
Coach, I can still recall very well, for all the years that I've been covering the Northern Sun for D2Football.com, going back to 2012, 2013. My first phone call to coaches to get to know folks was to Scott Underwood. My second one was to Tom Sawyer. And I remember you were very warm and welcoming with this process and with me going ahead and kind of looking to cover the league. And I want to thank you for all those years where you did that. And Coach, I can recall back to 2021 when you were moving into that last game. You guys were playing Mankato, and it was at Maxwell, and you guys, your group found a way to win 18-16. And I want to go ahead and first play a little bit of a quick bit that does have some audio to it of post game right after that win, and then I'll come right back to you. And, I came across this just kind of randomly when I knew we were going to have you on. And it brought a real smile to my face, brought a smile to yours. Tell us a little bit, walk us through that final game, whether it's, coming out on the field for the last time as the coach. I know you mentioned the referees came over and chatted with you. Tell us a little bit and relive some of that and some of the memories you have of it.
Well, I think it was just it was overwhelming, to be honest with you. The fact that I was just glad they just didn't dump me on the ground and pull a hamstring or something. But as I got out of there safely, but it was just a culmination of, like you said, 25 years. And I've always looked at my role in as a football coach is not only with the players, but also with the Northern Sun, and the emerging of our league into bringing back the NCC schools and adding other teams to, create a better conference for football for us and all sports. That's always been important to me. So I think that was all kind of rushing back at me during that game. And then you're playing, we consider one of our rivals in a friendly way, mostly because of recruiting. We're fighting for the same kids year in, year after, and so on. And then, to have the game finish on the last play of the game is the time was out or not or whatever. And just all of that just kind of came rushing at me and my family. And, my family had the worst seats in the stadium and for 25 years, but they're always there. So I just think that all of that together really was a gift to me, to be honest with you. As a student athlete back in 1978, played football and baseball, and it ended that way. I mean, that's a pretty good story, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have it in my pocket now for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Been 3 years now, Coach, since you roamed the sidelines. What is it like for you no longer X and O's and calling the shots for the football program? What's it like?
Well, it's kind of like a fish out of water, to be honest with you. The first year, I didn't know if I should sit with my wife in the stands. I tried that for a quarter or two. Then I went down to the sideline, and that was too close because I'm, talking to the officials. And so I had to get out of there. And I went up to one of our sky boxes, and I can't hang up with there because they're all saying, well, what should you do with this? And what would you do here? So I really just wanted to go home and watch the game on TV, to be honest with you. But since then, I really think that I've enjoyed the games now. Like just this last weekend, we had the home game with Mary, and I was down in the field and spent time with the officials a little bit and welcomed them back to Winona. I probably shouldn't be hugging them during the game was still in play, but just reliving some of that stuff each and every week at Maxwell Field, I think is fantastic. But still really don't know what to do. But I'd like to just sit up in the box and something and just watch the game and watch the kids and be honest with you, Tom, I only have about 20 players or so that are left on the roster. It's how fast rosters change. And so I'm still really engaged in the tailgate and the pregame with their families too. And that's really been a lot of fun. And of course, homecoming this weekend, you get, a lot of generations of players back. So all of that was part of game day.
Sure.
You're a lot younger than a lot of guys still coaching today, yet you decided to hang it up. How did you know enough was enough, or now's the time?
Tom, it was really weird. It was COVID was part of it, where we didn't play at all that season. We had an experienced team, and I had about 14 kids that were saying, I'm going to come back for my last year. And be honest with you, I was sitting with Connie on we have a beach home down in Florida, and we were sitting on the beach, and I just went, I think I'm done. I think it's a perfect time, because when do you ever break away from these 18 to 23-year-olds that they just keep coming? And I thought, well, I got a group of guys that have made a commitment. And I said, this is the right team. We had a pretty good team coming back that last year. And I just decided, I told the kids in the end of the spring ball that I was going to be done. So we didn't have to, there's no secrets about it or anything like that, and got the pressure off. But that's what it was. It was the transfer portal really ate me up, because I'm more of a transformational guy. I want to bring guys in, develop them, watch them in their 5th year, and they're graduating and becoming great young men. And that's not how it is today as much. Still, Division II is still kind of that way, but the last 2 years, we lost our top players, and they were both captains. And I couldn't understand that. That's not how I was brought up. It's not the world that I lived in. And that was really hard for me. So not that I didn't want to do it, but that was just another factor in why I chose at that time.
Coach, let me ask, what were some of the venues and rivalries that you think of when you think back to your time coaching in the Northern Sun? Which ones kind of immediately come to mind for you?
Well, all of them have a story, but it was always fun to play against teams that were really good. I always wanted to play the best competition that we could get our hands on, whether it was in conference. Of course, we got a lot of them in conference, and then out of conference as well. So anytime I had a non-conference game, I was trying to play up. So when South Dakota State, and they were just transitioning, we played those schools as well. But going into Duluth is a great venue. Coming to Bob Young Field, I heard earlier you talking about no wind. I don't believe that. But we had some great games there during my tenure, and at Augie. I mean, that new stadium was beautiful. I think we gave them their first loss on that field, so that was kind of fun for us, because that's a rival school as well. But you know what? For me, it was also going back to like Moorhead, back to that old field, because even though I got new turf, but I played on that field. So some of these places were back in the 70s, 60s, 50s, and I always enjoyed that traditional part of it too. And so I think those were probably the best places to play. One of the hardest places to play, Matt, was at Wayne State. That they are physical anyway, but you get down there for the Egg Bowl or one of those kind of games, and it's tough. And you just hope you get in and get on a bus and get out of there. And that was a lot of fun. Concordia is always fun because it's close. Making a day trip to a Division II football game is really fun. And besides the concrete wall at Mankato that you got to watch out for, you don't hit your head on it. It's great there, especially when the Vikings were there, because that turf was perfect. And there's nothing better than playing on great grass. So I know that's a lot of them, but each of them were pretty special.
And you know what? Your old buddy, Mr. Sauter, would give you a hard time if this picture didn't come on up. By the way, before I kind of finish up and ask you one last question, Coach, I was always getting a hard time from people about this deal with this trophy being 8 foot tall or whatever it was. Was there a story behind this? I mean, how did we ever get to where we had a rivalry trophy that's that big?
Well, I don't know. That was, I don't know how big, I don't know where it got that size, but the story goes, we had a sledgehammer in our defense that the player of the week got to put it in his locker and carry it to practice and that kind of stuff. And we had a kid that was an all-conference linebacker that brought him with on the bus and all that. Well, all of a sudden, I had no idea, but all of a sudden, that sledgehammer was sitting in the middle of the field on their Mustang, and I knew that wasn't going to go well, and it didn't. And I got it out of there as soon as I saw it, but I knew that there was going to be something happening. The quarterback would run by me, and he goes, "I'll see you later." I'm like, okay, well, I didn't really have anything to do with it, but and then there was a lot of John going back and forth, and our old AD, Larry Holstead, was all fired up, and I didn't know what he was going to do. And finally, Corey and I got together and said, well, let's get this calmed down and clean it up, and we did. And then we talked about it in the offseason. I said, because of that, let's try to start something and just to make the game bigger between us. So there lies the story of the sledge, but it's been pretty fun.
Well, Coach, we were just taking a look a moment ago, like an early morning shot here of Maxwell Field. Let me ask you, you were just back there, of course, for a game, and I know that you go to others as well. I have to inquire, each Saturday morning, let's say around 10, 11 a.m., do you kind of get an itch Do you think before you head on over to the field, do you still get a little bit of butterflies? Do you still kind of get a certain level of excitement about heading on over there? And then once you walk in, even if you're not coaching, there's just a certain energy to it.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I go there all the time just by myself. And I mean, this place, that field, really gave me everything I have in my life. From my children, for my wife is from Winona State, and we taught there, and we grew up here. I mean, I came here when I was 17 years old, so as a baseball and football guy, and didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. But to walk out there and that feeling you get on game day, especially like you talked about, and walking down through our tunnel and tailgate, I'm nervous as wreck, and I wish I could call a couple plays here and there to, when the time comes. But it's a special place to Winona, and a special place to me especially. And thank you for inquiring about it, because that's home, and that's something I've been a part of for over 40 years.
One last question from me, Coach. Maybe it's a two-part question. I've covered the Cougars for over 25 years, and I've got a favorite player in mind. Did you have a favorite player of yours? And on the other side of the coin, did you have a favorite opponent that you went up against through the last quarter century?
Yeah, I think that the player one's really hard. But one comes to mind as a wide receiver. We had Chris Samp, if you remember that name. I mean, the kid's fantastic. He was here this weekend. In fact, I'm going to tailgate with him in Green Bay next weekend. But he was a wide receiver that we brought in for $300, and he became an All-American and the all-time leading receiver here. Just a fun guy. He went in our Hall of Fame a couple years ago with his dad, because his dad was also a wide receiver here. So that's a pretty special kid along the way, but many, many others. And then I think that the rivalry that we had with Mankato, not only just the last game that we had, but, a win that we had at their place when they were, one of the top teams, I think might have been ranked number 1 that year at their place. And we had an 85-yard punt, for crying out loud, in that game. So, to help secure that win. But so I think that the home and away games that we had with Mankato were always a battle, and I'll cherish those times.
Well, when you think of Winona football, this gentleman is the first individual that comes to mind. Tom Sawyer, thank you so much for joining us here on the NSIC Weekly Podcast. And again, congratulations on your honor last weekend, getting inducted into the Winona State Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys, and keep rolling with the NSIC.
Thanks.
All right.
Boy, I tell you, it's great that we were able to get Coach on time. It's, we've been looking kind of for a good angle to bring back a coach like that, and this is perfect with his Hall of Fame, ceremony and everything else that went with that.
Amen to that, brother. Let's continue with our recap of that Minnesota State battle as Mankato went into Moorhead and came out a victor.
Absolutely. Now, this was a game that early start and kind of slow going, and we'll go ahead and take a look at some of the video of this one. Moorhead down 3-0 here. They go ahead and they run the ball in for a touchdown here, Tom. I know that this is not something that I know. But so they go ahead and they're up early. They got up 9-3, I think it was, or something like that before half. And then, Minnesota State starts asserting themselves a little bit more with the run game. And the way they do it, they just go ahead and kind of plow ahead, and it looks like a car crash by the time they're done. But looking at it as a whole, they went for 233 yards on the ground, the Mavs did. Hayden Eckern only had to throw the ball 17 times in this one. Once they got up, they kind of seemed like they got a little comfortable with things. And nice play here. They go ahead and kind of have a little bit of misdirection, and back to the tight end for the score. And, now they're up, and it's 17-12. They're going to go ahead and hurry up, do the tush push. And you're not going to stop the Mavs on that very often. And they get up 24-12. And that's where this game sat for a good long time. Until kind of almost the closing moments when the Dragons were able to go ahead and pull within 5, but that was as close as they were going to get. But nice catch here as you see Strand just kind of flip it the way he does. Boy, his arm strength and ability to get rid of the ball is sure something. But Mavs too much. Moorhead, we've talked about this year, the only 2 wins they have, both against ranked teams. But we always figure that if they are at home, they're going to get any top team a battle. They just came up a little bit short in this one.
Well, in my game, Concordia St. Paul dominated early. 23 minutes to 7 was the possession advantage, time of possession advantage for the Bears in the first half. But the scoreboard was still just 7-7 at intermission. Cougars were dominant in the second half. They won comfortably. They generated more than 400 yards of offense the final 3 quarters. While Jalen Richardson scored twice, he averaged less than 4 yards a carry. So I think the Cougars were quite happy with the job they did against the conference's top running back.
Yeah, and he definitely, in my opinion, is. And if we go ahead, we got some video here, and you can go ahead and see Mr. Rundigan get loose. And the Cougars, as you mentioned, the first half, Concordia kind of in control. There's our old fan of the week there. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
And Cam Dean gets loose here, gets in for the score. Boy, he can do it in a lot of different ways. And the Cougars went on a little bit of a run, and then they go ahead and they do this kind of throwback screen to Rundigan, and he's able to make it in. And the Cougars go ahead and pull away, pretty safely at that point. But Concordia played this game with them, I thought, pretty darn close. That first half, they controlled the action, but weren't able to make enough points of it for how much I felt they controlled the action. And the Cougars kind of made him pay for it in the second half.
I was very impressed with the freshman quarterback they used too. Jackson Compton did it with both his arm and his feet. Was able to get out of the pocket and make some hay with his legs.
Yeah.
Now, Augustana made the long haul to Minot, did something most teams have struggled to do, and that's harness the Beaver ground game. They forced them to pass, of all things. The rough trip was not that bad for Augie. They win 20-7.
No, Augie got ahead early, Tom, 14-0 in the first quarter, and just kind of held on to that. And when they were able to kind of beat Minot to the spot in their run game and forced them to throw. Let's go ahead and see a little of the action. Gunnar Hensley at quarterback here does a nice job here with the fake. Gets the DN to come on downhill, and he's going to go ahead and get around him and score. And Gunnar Hensley's kind of got a little bit of this game in him. He did that play more than one time. So they were able to kind of keep him honest. And then here's Mr. Epperson on the screen. And wow, yeah, he can be pretty electric at times. He ends up going for 215 yards total in this ball game with a score. And, as we go ahead, Mr. Lampley scores here. They're up 14-0, and they were able, with their strong defense, to just kind of ride this on out. Minot's, 17-0 game, end of third quarter. They're able to go ahead and get a score here, but they were able to march into the red zone later in the contest. Couldn't get anything of it. And the fact that they made 3 trips into the red zone, Tom, came away with points one time, hurt them quite a bit in this contest. But you see Hayden Wallace and Buckley down there, 14 and 10 tackles respectively. This Augustana defense can be pretty darn good. And against, especially, we saw them in person when they played the Jacks at SDSU. They can defend the run. And that was kind of a tough matchup, I thought, for Minot in this one.
Yep, Minot threw it 20 times. They came into the game 29 times total in the first 6 games of the year.
Right.
The brutal fall continues for Southwest Minnesota State. The Mustangs dropped another one-sided contest, this time at home to Wayne State.
Yeah, and this game, Tom, I opened up my big mouth at halftime, and it was 14-7, and I thought, okay, the Mustangs are battling here. I said they're in a dogfight. Well, those comments didn't sit real well, and so. Oh boy, Mr. Bone for the Wildcats. He can go ahead and rush the ball, move those chains, score touchdowns, through for 4. They were able to go ahead and hit some shots downfield again. They're the kind of team that you just cannot let them take those shots downfield like that. Their guys will run right past you. And, I want to mention Josiah Hedenston for the Mustangs. He has been a guy who has been a dude for them all year, despite the challenges that this team has had. He's up there 8, 9, 10 tackles or more every game. And, in a year where their offense has struggled, he has really been a player.
That's the recap of last week. As our viewers well know, our sponsor is Boss's Pizza and Chicken. And my man, what's new with the folks at Boss's this week?
Well, they circled back with me because keep in mind they've got 10 locations throughout the upper Northwest here. They are still looking for folks to help them with expansion. So they're looking for hotel spots where they can have a restaurant be put in for Bosses. And as you can see right there, that's not a bad looking sports bar setup, Tom. I don't know about you, but I don't know if I'd be able to choose between pasta and pizza and maybe even a beer to go with it. What do you think?
I think you probably have both and beer on top of it to wash it down.
Well, as I say, sometimes we eat for nourishment and sometimes we just got to eat for enjoyment.
I've been out to eat with you, man. You eat for enjoyment most of the time.
Okay, so we're going to move right on. That'll be enough.
Followers of d2football.com and this podcast will know that the founder of the website, Brandon Meisner, last spring, a serious health issue, a costly health issue. So you took it upon yourself to try and raise a little bit money for Brandon's rehabilitation. And man, you were pleasantly surprised with the outcome of this fundraising effort.
Well, we had gone ahead, Tom, about a month after Brandon had the stroke. And we went ahead and we had put together a GoFundMe page. And, at some point that kind of plateaus. We did get to a $25,000 number for that, and just reached that recently. So I was very pleased with that, but we wanted to find kind of a way where some people could get something tangible to go with this, whether it's a dry fit shirt, a hoodie, or what have you. And, as we had kind of talked about on the logo on the front there, this is the same as I have it right here, helmet sticker that has been worn by Northwest Missouri State this year on the back of their helmet in tribute to Brandon and all he's done for D2 football for 20 plus years. And Mankato is wearing it as well. And we thought, that would be kind of a cool thing to throw on a shirt. And I was very pleased, Tom, because we thought we might make like $1,000 for Brandon or something like that. The fact that we were able to raise along this process over $3,000 for him, and folks are going to have kind of a cool shirt to go with it that they can wear with pride and know that it's helping him. I think it's just a win-win across the board, buddy.
Can't wait for that dry fit to show up on my front door by the end of the month.
I've got a dry fit and a hoodie coming because I'm a big guy. We wear hoodies.
I got a hoodie on right now, my man.
Yeah, I couldn't fit in that hoodie. But.
No, the d2football.com top 25 out this week. And surprise, surprise, we've got 3 Northern Sun teams back in the rankings.
Yeah, and as a voter in this, I wanted to kind of mention that I wanted to give us a little bit of kudos, Tom. We've got 3 Northern Sun teams in here. The Coaches Bowl's only got Mankato right now at 15. So I think we're showing a little bit more love to the conference. But Wayne State, it felt like the right time for them to enter on back in. Their only setback is against a 1-score loss with Mankato. Augustana has 2 losses, on the slate. One of them South Dakota State. So let's be honest about that. Nobody at our level's beaten them. And then, Mankato had their one setback against Sioux Falls, and they're ranked in our top 10 still. The one biggest thing I would say that happened here is Central Oklahoma made a bit of a jump. They went from 11 to 8 because we rewarded them for kind of how they took it to Northwest Missouri State, who looked like they were kind of on the get back. And that was a 48-20 ball game. And Coach Dorrell, Adam Dorrell, who had been at Northwest, he's really got the Bronchos really humming. They are 6-0 right now, Tom, and they look like they could very well be the class of the MIAA.
Are they really called the Bronchos? Because we played them in 2014, the Mineral Water Bowl. I'm pretty sure I
Yep.
called them Broncos back then.
Well, that's fair. You may have called them incorrectly that entire bowl game,
Okay.
but you know what? They are the Bronchos, and with that said, I remember that bowl game that they were at, and the Cougars ended up winning that, didn't they?
The aforementioned Luke Papillion and Nephi Garcia and Josh Angulo, and those guys went pretty nutso offensively in that win.
There you go. Nice. This kind of brings me to think that you might do okay in our Northern Sun trivia segment at the end, unlike previous weeks where you failed miserably. So no, actually, you know what? Last week you finished at 500, so I take all that back.
Yeah, come on, give the guy his proper respect here, man. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, I need
yeah.
to get no respect.
Yes,
Here's
understandably.
the standings
Yes.
as we get set for this week of action in the NSIC. Mankato still leading the league, half game better than Wayne and Augie, all those teams with one loss. Then Sioux Falls all alone at 4-2. Hot on the Cougars' heels, Bemidji and Winona each at 3 wins and 2 losses. At 500, Minot and Northern. Minot dropping, Northern rising. Minnesota Duluth. At this stage of the season, when was the last time the Bulldogs were sub 500? But they find themselves at 2-3, tied with Concordia St. Paul. Moorhead also at 2-3. And then down at the bottom, the 2 winless teams in league play, Southwest and the University of Mary.
Yeah, and Tom, when I look at this, Duluth being 2-3 does kind of stand out with them. The coaches had them winning the league. The last time I remember them having this type of season would have been back when, they would have had probably, Drew Bauer, who had gotten hurt that one year, and they just kind of worked themselves again. They were trying to patch things together without him because he was such a big piece of what they did. But otherwise, Minot's still right there. They're 4-3 overall. Winona all of a sudden making that climb like we talked about. And, things are kind of starting to take shape. We don't have that many games left, buddy.
No, just 5 weeks left in the season, 5 weeks left in the Pick'em segment, which is next. And despite a 5 going, I'm still lagging way behind, man. 7 games behind you and 3 games behind the computer. I may have to take some big swings down the stretch here.
Oh, I like where this segment's going. Okay.
Some Hail Marys, remainder of the way, perhaps. Are you ready?
I am. What do you got for me, buddy?
Let's preview the weekend. We're going to start with that Moorhead at Concordia game, high noon in the Twin Cities. Massey has Moorhead by 7. I've got to go with Moorhead.
Man, this one's tough. Moorhead away from home. I like some things I saw from Concordia. I think Concordia's going to be able to run the football on them. I'm going to go be the one to take the upset here. I'm taking the Golden Bears in this one. What do you think about that?
That shocks me a little bit.
Okay.
But I got it noted here.
I'm going to make a call to Coach Courier, tell him that I'm counting on him. So no pressure at all.
Minot State is at Bemidji State. The Red Beavers visit the Green Beavers. BSU is the favorite by 24. I have Bemidji winning, but not by 24.
No. Bemidji feels like they kind of need to kind of right the ship at the moment after that Northern setback. And I think that they win. I don't think that I think Minot plays a style and plays good enough defense that I don't think the kind of team that you just go ahead and do away with like that. But I think Bemidji being physical and the way that they can defend is not a good matchup for Minot either. I like Bemidji also.
I scratch my head over the schedule maker here. We have competing games in Sioux Falls Saturday at the same time, one in central Sioux Falls, one in the southeastern section of the city. Augustana hosting Winona State. Massey has the Vikings an 11-point pick. Now, I'd be shocked if they don't win, but I've got to go out on the limb. I got to make up some ground. Winona's my upset choice.
Ooh, I like it. Okay. Now, you know what? With all the good things they have going right now, I definitely like them to cover for sure, that number that we talked about. Not that anybody's using that number for anything other than how it's intended.
Just for fun.
But you know what? I also like what Augustana has going on with Gunnar Hensley at quarterback right now. I think he's playing well. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think I'm going to have to still take the Vikings at home.
All right. We differ again. USF hosting Minnesota Duluth on homecoming at the same time as that Augie Winona game. This is Witt's tail of the tape contest. Massey has the Bulldogs 6-point favorites, but I can't tell from your graphic really who you're picking or who you have as the favorite here. And I
like to keep you guessing as much as I can. But now, for those who haven't seen the graphic before, if you are really good at something, you get 2 X's in that category. If you're good and competent at it, and I think you're solid there, you get an X. If you don't get any, then I think there's a clear advantage. So I think Sioux Falls has the momentum, clearly. They have the home field advantage. I think the kicking game, I would also give a slight advantage to Mr. Hernandez, kicking for the Cougars. And then I move past that and I go, okay, these teams are very, very equal, Tom, in a lot of ways. Now, what's interesting is they both have a dual threat quarterback. They get there in different ways. One of them will run you over. The other one will run past you. Now, that said, I think that UMD is still a little bit better defense, which is probably going up on a bulletin board right now in Sioux Falls by Coach Glogowski. But as I look at this overall, UMD has lost all 3 games by essentially the last play of the game. You know, each one they had a chance and they lost all 3 of them. I think UMD head to head might just be a little bit better football team. I'm taking the Bulldogs on the road.
All right, you made my decision for me. I'm going with the Cougars. We differ again. I got to make up some ground here, man. If you were going with Sioux Falls, I was picking Duluth. So it's just the opposite.
No, you weren't. I know you better. And by the way, I have battled over this game all week. The whole last 24 hours. I've been thinking, where am I going to go on that one?
I'm not blowing smoke. If you would have picked Sioux Falls, I would have gone with UMD.
You wouldn't have been able to face Glow in the post game. He would have eaten you alive.
That's possible, but
yes,
it is what it is. Next up, Wayne State at the University of Mary in Bismarck. Wildcats should cover a 24-point spread. Mary's lost 6 in a row.
Man, if there's ever a time for Mary to bounce back and Wayne with this really long road trip and everything else. That said, I just don't like what I've seen of Mary recently these last few weeks. I got to go with Wayne here winning comfortably.
And last but certainly not least, Southwest Minnesota State travels to Aberdeen Saturday night. Northern State hosting the Mustangs, and the Ponies are going to lose again, and maybe by as much as what Massey expects. 23 is the line as of today.
The Northern State defense has played outstanding over this stretch where they've been winning games. When they start 0-4, win 3 in a row, now they're trying to get back to even at 4-4, which would be quite the feat, considering the hole they were in. Their offense has not impressed me all year, if I'm going to be really honest about it. I don't think that they have much of a passing game. Feel free to prove me wrong, Wolves, but I think that this game ends up not being very high scoring. I think Northern State just kind of suffocates them with their defense, but I'm not sure if I would pick them to cover, Tom.
Well, 6 games is what we picked. We differ on 3 of them, so either I'm going to shrink that deficit or you're going to just blow me out of the water. And
I'll take the second answer.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. That brings us to the portion of the pod that tickles the fancy of Witt and me. And if we can't amuse ourselves, what's the point, I say? NSIC Jeopardy is next. Let's get things rolling, Don Pardo.
Well, this is what everyone apparently tunes in for, or maybe this is the time when they turn away. I'm not really sure which. But let's go ahead. You know, we had a Winona guest on. We're going to start with a guy who was a defensive player of the year just before COVID got going. Played for the Warriors. defensive back. We're going to start off with that guy right here, and let's see if you can recall who that is.
I can recall it if you give me his initials.
Oh, we're going to go through that bit
Yeah, we
again.
have to do that again,
Yeah. A.S., and he wears number 23, by the way, in case if you need one more help.
It's it's Andrew Spencer.
Oh, wow. Did you just pull up a session of Google or something? How did that happen?
Spencer.
Okay, well, you know what? I didn't go ahead and play your music. I forgot.
Hi-oh! Now that's Ed McMahon, not Hank Kingsley, but I'll take it.
Yeah, well, we want someone a little more age appropriate for you. So let's go ahead.
That's dead.
You're off to a good start, which we really were not expecting. And so we're going to go with some special teamers. We've dug deep this week. That's right. Kicker, punter, fellow Polish guy like me. Mavericks back right before COVID as well. He was an All-American caliber player.
His last name was Bednarski, was it not?
Hold on. Since I'm used to having to give you initials and other foolery, I will give you it just right out of the gate if you get a last name. So that's Casey Bednarski. And against all odds, you are off to a 2-0 start.
In Jeopardy, They allow just last names, so I think it's appropriate here.
Okay. Don't feel like you got to talk back. So now we go into the vault because we had a Crookston player last time, and you were all up in a tizzy with that. So we're going to do a St. Cloud player who started his career as a quarterback, ended as an All-American wide receiver.
God, initials. It rings a bell here, but I have to have a little bit of assistance. I need a lifeline. We're mixing how to be a millionaire with.
Yeah, I see what we're doing. JP. I still think you're going to have nothing on this one.
Yep, I got nothing.
Jamison Parsons.
Oh, yes, Jamison Parsons. Yep.
Keep in mind, these aren't just guys who wore a uniform. I'm giving you All-American type players here. Let me point that on out for all those who are, getting mad at me because I'm getting people you're not. Yeah, all that. Let's go ahead. Let's stay with, we talked about quarterback a moment ago. Okay.
Yep.
Wayne State quarterback during the same time when we just mentioned Papillion a moment ago.
I need initials again, Witt.
Good, Governor. Z-O. That's going to give it away.
Zach Osborne.
Yeah, I'm not even playing your music. That barely counts.
Hey,
how about...
I've memorized so many players through the years. I can't have them all in the Rolodex upstairs.
Listen up, Mr. Too Deep. How about... Who's the Cougar player over there? Defensive lineman chasing him in the snow game back circa 2015.
I'm saying that's Grant Schindler.
Wow. I'm impressed you got that. I was not expecting that.
57. I get extra credit for that one, buddy.
You do. You don't get any credit for the first one because it was putting the ball on the tee for you.
Come on.
Oh, okay, maybe. I'll let our fans be the judge of that. How's that sound?
I just got a text. They say, give it to him.
This one is going to be crickets. We used to say that this guy was, for Duluth, this guy was kind of like the original Swiss Army knife. He would do jet sweeps for them, catch passes, runs. He would do everything for them. And apparently, okay, hold on. Let me get your music of indecision.
I need the initials again, then I'll have it.
Oh, see, we can't even try and fight through it. You just got to go right to the initials, don't you?
I'm telling you, my brain is mush right now, so I need a little bit of help.
BB. Once again, dead giveaway now.
BB.
There's people in Marshall, Minnesota from his hometown yelling at you right now. Kelly Loft might be one of them.
I think in the Bolio kid from Bemidji, that's not it. It's
This is about 10 years earlier, but other than that, you're right. You're tracking perfectly.
and it's not PP Paul Preston. I was hoping that little guy.
No. You know what? Paul Preston, we could have brought him on with Coach. Yeah.
BB. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say I can't place the name.
Well, you know what? I haven't done this yet, and I've been waiting to. Normally, I get to do that a lot more often during this segment. Bo Bofferding.
Oh, Bofferding. Yeah. Beau Bofferding. Yes.
And I have one last one. I haven't even been keeping score because you're asking for last names at this point. Another special teamer. Yeah, everyone knows Concordia's had some kickers. I'm not sure this one wasn't the best of the bunch. Got a chance in the league. I think he kicked overseas, the whole deal. I'm sure I'll hear about it.
Because I'm thinking it's either Jonas Schenderlein or Tom Obarski.
Okay. So now we're going to have you narrow it down to what is your actual guess here?
It's Tom Obarski. Oh!
Perfectly wrong. Jonas Schenderlein.
Jonas.
Yep, him too. Oh, this bit never lets us down, does it?
Oh, gosh. I was close, but missed it by just outside the right pipe.
Yeah, I didn't even have to give you initials for that one like I normally do.
I was close. I knew they had great kickers, and they had another one that Isatalo McGuire, who had a 60-yarder last week, just kicked last Saturday here in town. He missed a couple of field goals, though, by the way. All right.
Thanks for throwing that in. Perfect.
Thanks for Jeopardy, man. Time now to award another NSIC Weekly T-shirt. And your fan of the week this week is
Matt Wahlberg, a longtime Northern State fan. As I say, he has been NSU for life, and he has been on our message board forum for a long time. For the Wolves. He had a quote that he wanted me to communicate. Hopefully, I won't botch this. Fair chance I might. He's originally from Minnesota. He said, "People ask me how a college of 70 miles off the interstate with a population of under 30,000 can have such good support." He said, "I simply tell them I can't explain it to you. You can only experience it." He said, "The campus may have changed, but the people have not. It's just a close community that supports itself. When they say the strength of the pack is in the pack and the strength of the pack is in the wolf, that is a very accurate slogan for us." I'm dizzy just saying that. So he has been a longtime supporter of ours, and the website and everything D2football.com has done. And in addition to that, I met Matt back in 2015 at Gypsy Days, where they had like 11,000 people there. The Cougars were playing. That was back in, I remember Solomon St. Pierre had a pick that day. I don't know why that's in my head, but it is. That could have been on any game at that point during that window of time. But no, real good guy. And he bought a T-shirt, Tom, in the Brandon Meisner deal as well. And I just wanted to kind of tell him I thank him for not only that, but being one of our top supporters and fans.
And tell him not to wait for that T-shirt in the mail. It might be a while. The way you're.
He'll get it sooner than later. That'll be enough.
All right, that does it for this week's podcast. We've run nearly an hour here. Please check out our socials, T-Fred Muggs and WittD2Football.com. Our thanks to the paywall-free NSIC network for now. Also, KBJR in Duluth, Dakota News Now for the video that Witt pirated for our little show here. And don't forget to watch D2Football.com's Big Sunday show. That's Sunday evenings at what time, Witt?
Whenever I get there. No, 7 p.m. Central Time.
On the YouTubes.
Absolutely.
Until next time, I'm Tom. He's Matt. Thanks for watching.